All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for some real people just like you and just like me. In this case, I'm talking about probably the world's most famous pop star again. I did a video about Justin Bieber the other day, probably my first Bieber video ever, because I never thought I'd be talking about Justin Bieber. And in this context, it's even more kind of surreal that we're talking about Justin Bieber's health. Justin Bieber is 28 years old to start with, okay? So according to Vanity Fair, pop star Justin Bieber discusses his diagnosis of Ramsay-Hunt syndrome via Instagram. So Justin Bieber took to Instagram on Friday, uploaded a 3-minute video announcing that he is currently suffering from the rare and usually reversible condition known as Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. First time I've ever heard of that syndrome, by the way. With a caption reading, "Important, please watch. I love you guys and keep me in your prayers." Bieber, looking understandably downbeat, explained that he had caught a thing that attacked the nerves in his ear and face, causing some paralysis. Okay, so I think some paralysis versus a lot of paralysis, I don't know, just the term some paralysis is kind of like being kind of pregnant, I guess. I don't know. He demonstrated that his right eye is not blinking. He cannot smile on the right side of his face, and he can't move his right nostril. By the way, very similar to what's called Guillain-Barré syndrome. Very similar. He apologized for canceling his upcoming shows, but explained that he is not physically capable at the present time. He says, "This is pretty serious, as you can see." Now, first of all, I want to make a comment here that Justin Bieber has a lot of courage to do this, you know, to do a 3-minute video and to demonstrate what is going on with his condition. And it forces the media to report on it. This is the world's biggest pop star, whether I like it or not, whether I'm a big fan of Justin Bieber or not. He is using his celebrity status here to highlight something that is happening to him. Because remember, in the last 2+ years, people have experiences, anecdotal experiences. They share those experiences with others, and the media at times reports on it. And at times, the media and the medical community have said to people, hey, what you're experiencing is all in your head. Your experience, okay, and I'm thinking, for instance, about Eric Clapton, but I'm thinking about other people who have said, hey, I did this thing, I went to the restaurant, I had lousy service, I wouldn't recommend that you go back to that restaurant, right? Just using an analogy here. And people go, oh, that's all in your head. That doesn't exist. So Bieber here does something pretty brave because he's putting it out there for people to see. Now, Bieber isn't making any false claims, right? Bieber isn't out there spreading mis or disinformation. Nope. He's just, look, you know, in the case of when Jesus healed the blind man, right? And he goes back and he shows everybody, and they question whether Jesus did this miracle. And he says, look, all I know is before I was blind, but now I can see. And there's not much else for them to say at that point other than to get really mad at Jesus, right? That Jesus did this miracle, and we still need to, you know, take him out, which eventually, for what, 30 pieces of silver, it actually occurred. So I think this is pretty courageous on the part of Justin Bieber. People aren't going to see it that way. They're just going to say, okay, he's out there updating his fans, and that might be his primary goal, but he could be on the down low right now. The people who are managing his career probably are saying to him, I don't know if you should go out there with this. I don't know, this could blow the lid off this entire thing if you go out there with this. So Bieber went out there. And of course, 90% of the population just think, wow, this is some random occurrence. How is this occurring to poor Justin Bieber? He's 28 years old. He's in perfect health, right? Or he was in perfect health. So what led up to this? I wonder if anybody will ask that question. So far, in every article I've read, nobody is asking that question. Of course they're not. So he goes on to say, this is pretty serious, as you can see. I wish this wasn't the case, but obviously my body is telling me I've got to slow down. Now, I don't know if his body's telling him that he's got to slow down. That was more of a diplomatic statement than one which would kind of lead people down a certain path to get to a certain place. So he's blaming it here on the fact that maybe he works too hard, life goes by too fast. So he says, I've got to slow down. I hope you guys understand. He said he'd be using the time to rest and relax and get to 100% so he can do what he was born to do. He added, I got to get my rest on so that I can get back, so I can get my face back to where it's supposed to be. So the rest, according to Bieber, is going to get his face back to where it's supposed to be. To have that kind of problem, I would be in a panic mode. I would be completely panic stricken, and I would probably want my privacy, and I wouldn't want to talk to anybody. So again, kudos to Bieber for doing this. This is pretty brave. He concluded that he would get better, but it would take time. And this was all for reason, some kind of destiny or divine providence here. I don't know how it would be all for reason. Maybe Bieber coming forward is for a good purpose or reason. He said, even though he wasn't sure what that reason was right now. According to the esteemed medical people over at CBS News, a news source you can certainly trust, right? CBS, you know, in the old days, they used to call it CBS, all right? Works better if you use it that way. Ramsay-Hunt syndrome is a rare neurological disorder caused by the same thing that causes shingles and chickenpox. Only 5 people per 100,000 are estimated to contract the syndrome in a given year. Been hearing a lot about pox lately. This is kind of interesting, and I wonder if there's some kind of connection or coincidence. I'm just kind of curious. I know the people over at CBS, they're not all that concerned, but I think it is interesting how we've been hearing a lot about pox. They go on to say it causes a rash in the ear that can spread to facial paralysis. That's pretty serious, to go from rash to paralysis. Depending on the severity of the nerve damage, full recovery usually occurs after a few weeks of drug treatment. Oh, drugs. Well, that's good news, right? Big pharma to the rescue once again. There are cases, however, where the syndrome can cause permanent hearing and vision loss. So if the worst case scenario occurs here, that would be the end of Justin Bieber's career, right? That would be a career-ending illness or injury. At which point, I would hope that Justin Bieber would be not just a pop star, but a courageous truth teller. Because at that point, if he loses his career, I mean, he's already got enough money, right? You would think. So if he's no longer able to perform, I would think that he would be an advocate for all those people who aren't believed when they tell others about their problems. And maybe we can actually get to the origin of these problems that are occurring all over the place. And they're inventing new names for things that didn't exist before and trying to convince people that those things have always been around. And we just didn't get around to labeling them until now. Sure. Okay. In any event, like I said in the first Bieber video, my thoughts and prayers go out to Justin Bieber, his family, his fans, everybody involved here. Honestly, I hope he makes a full recovery. This is not looking good, though. This is not looking good. There's some optimism here, but of course, you've got to give the fans some hope. And I think there is hope, but we'll just have to see how this works out. Facial paralysis isn't something that happens to people every day. And the seriousness of this can't really be understated or sort of papered over. I mean, people have to get a grip on the truth and on reality and start to actually ask questions. Nobody over at CBS is asking any questions like, what could have caused this? Why in a relatively healthy 28-year-old man are these problems happening? Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. It's a rare neurological disorder, or is it rare? What could be the cause of this? Again, anyway, people, there's some obvious questions out there that need to be answered. Not sure they will be. As one of the greatest information, I want to say blackout, but it's worse than that. It's kind of where information is available to be found, right? And it's right there and everybody knows where to find it, but they refuse to go and get it. So if you are somebody who believes that the media are honest brokers, you'd have to say that they're being lazy. If you believe there's something more sinister going on, you would say something like, they're withholding very important information from the general public. The general public has a right to know. Despite the narrative that they try to prop up each day, there are more, you would think, right? Here's another punchline here. You would think there are more important things than just sticking to this narrative. That at some point, somebody with courage, somebody with a conscience comes forward and says, enough, enough, right? We're told lately about guns, you know, gun crime and all this. Enough is enough, right? So when is it enough on this issue? When is enough enough? That is a very important question. And I will continue to report on this. It's not really reporting. I guess it is, because all you have to do to be a journalist is to see something and then tell people about it. That's journalism. That's all it is. And I am taking a look at this report and I'm giving it to the audience, and you guys do what you want with it. If you think I'm crazy by just sort of inferring a few things here, I get it. But so far, I haven't been wrong. My instincts have been 100% right. And I will continue to talk about this stuff because someone needs to talk about it. And of course, I will do so in a way that, you know, doesn't hopefully get anybody in trouble, especially me. But, you know, people still need to tell their friends, tell their neighbors, do some research, especially off the grid, meaning independent media sources that aren't bought and paid for by the people here who are planning on probably administering weeks of drug treatment to Justin Bieber, because full recovery, it says here, usually occurs after a few weeks of drug treatment. So yeah, there's a lot of hope there, right? More drugs, and that's the way we fix this. So that's the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Patreon for just $1 a month, people. I need your help over on Patreon. And yep, that's it. I will see you soon.